By 1943, the war in the air over Europe had reached a critical phase. American B-17 Flying Fortresses and B-24 Liberators flew in massive daylight formations deep into German territory. Their mission: to systematically destroy Hitler's war machine, factories, oil refineries, and cities. Their motto was simple: the bombers must get through. But waiting for them was the fiercest aerial defense system ever created: the German Luftwaffe. Piloted by veterans with hundreds of kills, the legendary Aces, they flew sleek, deadly fighters like the Messerschmitt Me-109 and the Focke-Wulf FW-190. The bomber crews called the territory above Germany the mighty Eighth's graveyard. The air was filled with flak, fire, and the silent, terrifying reality of combat at 25,000 feet. The losses were catastrophic. Without a true escort fighter capable of going the distance, the daylight raids were bleeding the Allies dry. This is the story of the longest, deadliest air duel of WWII. It is the story of the men who flew straight into hell, and the arrival of the single machine that finally tipped the balance of power: the P-51 Mustang. The American strategy was audacious: attack in broad daylight, relying on the B-17's heavy armor and defensive machine guns. The bomber formations, sometimes hundreds strong, flew in tight coordinated boxes, turning each formation into a flying hedgehog of self-defense. But the defense was not enough. The Luftwaffe, led by elite pilots, perfected their tactics. They learned to avoid the nose-on firepower and attacked from the sides and rear, tearing through the formations. Worse than the fighters was the flak, anti-aircraft artillery, that burst in deadly black clouds around the bombers. Missions to targets like Schweinfurt and Regensburg saw losses of over 60 B-17s in a single day, with entire crews vanishing in seconds. The initial Allied escort fighters, the P-38 Lightning and the P-47 Thunderbolt, were superb planes, but they were fatally limited. Range. They could only escort the bombers halfway to the target before having to turn back due to fuel limitations. The final, crucial hours of the mission were flown unprotected. German pilots knew exactly where to find the bombers alone, at the point of no return. The solution wasn't a faster plane, but a plane that could fly farther. The answer arrived in late 1943 in the form of the P-51 Mustang. Initially conceived as a tactical fighter, the Mustang's destiny was rewritten when engineers fitted it with the powerful British Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. This engine transformed the Mustang into the highest-performing propeller plane of the war. Its defining feature was its fuel capacity and aerodynamic efficiency. Suddenly, the Allies had a fighter with the range to fly from England, escort the bombers to any target in Germany, and fly them home. The Mustang's mission was clear: kill the German fighters. They weren't there to simply fly alongside the bombers. They were there to clear the sky. The Americans instituted the new tactic of top cover. The Mustangs were free to leave the tight bomber formation, hunt down the Luftwaffe over their own airfields, and destroy the opposition on the ground and in the air. This change shattered the German defensive strategy. The legendary German Aces, who had flown with near impunity, were now meeting their match, sometimes deep inside the Reich. The hunter had become the hunted. The climax of the air war came during Big Week in February 1944. The Allied objective was to strike simultaneously at Germany's core aircraft manufacturing sites. The fighting was immense. Over 6 days, hundreds of American bombers and fighters engaged the full might of the Luftwaffe. But this time, the Mustangs were everywhere. They engaged the German fighters not just over the targets, but during their takeoff and landing runs. The goal was no longer merely to protect the bombers, but to achieve attrition. to destroy the German pilots and planes faster than they could be replaced. The German defense was ferocious, but unsustainable. On one critical day, February 22, 1944, American fighters claimed over 100 German aircraft destroyed in the air. The Luftwaffe's most precious resource, its experienced pilots, were being systematically wiped out. The Mustang had not only provided the bombers with a shield, it had turned the skies over Germany into a deadly grinder for the Luftwaffe. By the spring of 1944, the tide had unequivocally turned. German air defense was fractured, its factories were crippled, and its elite fighting force was decimated. By the time of the D-Day invasion in June 1944, the Allies had achieved near-total air superiority over the European continent. German ground troops often fought for days without seeing a single friendly aircraft. The P-51 Mustang was not just an excellent machine, it was the essential tool that won the war in the air. It was the machine that allowed the bombers to complete their mission, proving that in modern warfare, the battle on the ground is often won or lost long before the first soldier sets foot on the field. The air war was brutal, but the combined courage of the bomber crews and the long-range ferocity of the fighter pilots ensured that the skies over Europe would finally belong to the Allies.